In this video learning series, I'm going to talk in more detail about AccuTask AccuTask is the behind-the-scenes processor for all of the jobs that run on a timer in AccuSQL or AccuTrack. There are two methods that we can use to run this backend processor. One is a standalone exe we call AccuTrack that's located in the folder where AccuSQL or AccuTrack are installed. That's the preferred method that we found primarily for permissions issues. However, if you have a local admin account on the server that's going to be running TaskRunner, it needs to be local, not domain admin, then you can run it as a Windows service, AccuTaskRunner service. So I'll show you both of those methods. Now, when I mean backend jobs, let's take a look at what those are. So I'm going to System Setup, System Options, and then Schedule Tasks. So these are the backend jobs that run in AccuTrack or AccuSQL. Auto sign out, if a student forgets to sign out, automatically sign them out and credit them with X. You loan materials to students and the materials are late, you can send a late media reminder. If you have a seminar or workshop that you've set up in the program, then you can send a reminder to the students that have signed up for that seminar. Appointment reminder, X number of hours in advance, you can send an email reminder to the student if they have an appointment. If they don't show up for that appointment, then you can send them a no-show email. Periodic imports, that's just a holder. I'll talk about that in a second. Scheduled reports, you want to automatically send reports to various recipients on a schedule, say every Tuesday at 3 o'clock. That would be a scheduled report job. Scheduled instructor report is you can send a report to all of the professors for the students that have signed into their classes on a schedule. You can send a report to all of them. Success plans, those are milestones that you can set for students. You can send an email for the student to determine where they are with their success plans, if they're open or closed, when they're due. Now, periodic imports, I talked about this being a placeholder. Periodic imports are going to import student information, course information, registration information on a schedule. But you'll see here where it says runs only on. That's the only one that does that, because the TaskRunner service or the standalone AccuTrack needs to be running on the computer that initiates the automated import. So at the end of an import process, there's a button that says schedule as automated import. It remembers everything you did during that import, but it needs to have the TaskRunner service or the console running on the computer that initiated the import for that to work. Now, a good rule of thumb is to initiate that automated import on the server, let the server run your backend jobs, and then you won't have to worry about it. Okay, further, if we go into a little detail on this, I can click Edit Schedule here. And this shows when the job kicks off. So think of it like this, automated signouts. The backend job runs at 5 o'clock in the morning and sees if any students have exceeded the sign-out period. If they have, it's going to automatically sign them out. Then it kicks off the job at 6 o'clock, sees if there's any students that have passed that time at 6 o'clock. If so, it signs them out. It continues to do so every hour, in my case until 9 p.m. Okay, now I can drag in that schedule and change when I want that to happen. I could select none and then drag back in my schedule. So it's totally up to you when you want the jobs to kick off. Now, it may have nothing to do on a particular hour, but it'll run and see if it has something to do or not. Also, this means every day of every month. And I can go through the various jobs here to see when they run. So you can see my late media runs every other hour, Monday through Friday. My appointment reminders, they run 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. Okay, so these are the backend jobs that I'm talking about. So let's show the methods that we can use to run this backend job. The first one, the easiest one and preferred one, is to run it directly from the folder where AccuSQL is installed. So here I am in my AccuSQL 2017 folder, and I've got a program here called AccuTrack. So when I open that, you'll see, hopefully you can see down here in my taskbar, but it has a little clock if you can't see it, and that icon down there indicates it's now running. It's running the scheduled jobs from this PC. Now, if I'd like to, I could put that AccuTrack in my Windows Startup folder, and then it will open whenever Windows opens. Alright, so that's the first method, is just to double click on the exe from the program files folder of Accu 2017 or AccuSQL 2017. The next method would be to install it as a Windows service. Okay, so let me open AccuSQL 2017 for a second. The install folder, I should say. And this is a 64-bit PC, so it would be in my program files x86 folder. And in here I have a folder called AccuTask Runner. And I have a README. If you're interested in looking through that, it'll explain a little bit about how it works. But now I'm just going to install AccuTask Runner by running the MSI. And you want to install it to the folder where the software is installed. Mine is AccuSQL 2017, so I'll just leave that folder. Yours could be 16 or 15, so set it to wherever AccuSQL is installed, and I'd recommend for everyone. Okay, so now that's installed, but then I want to go to my services.msc snap-in. And here it is, AccuTrack Scheduled Tasks Manager. So I'm going to right-click and go to Properties, log on, and I want to run this. I have to run this under local admin credentials. So I'm just going to go search here, and this is a local admin account. I'll add that, put in the password for that account. Apply, click OK, and now I'm going to start the service. Alright, so now that service is running under my local admin credentials, so it's ready to perform my jobs. If I've got the service running, I don't need the AccuTrConsole.exe, the first way I showed you, and vice versa. If I am just running the console.exe, there's no reason for me to install the service. Okay, but now it's running. If I go look at Task Manager here, I'll see that running as a service right here. And now it's ready to kick off and run my jobs. It'll run them around the top of the hour. It'll run every hour that I have a job set to run. And you may have noticed back in AccuSQL, I had a last run date and time. And that's in my system setup, system options, scheduled tasks. And right here it says last run, 9 o'clock on the 13th, 9 o'clock on the 13th. This one ran on the 6th, another on the 13th, one on the 5th. So it will show you the last time, the date and time stamp of when that last job ran. And that's pretty much it to make your backend jobs enabled. Now let's talk a little bit about troubleshooting. I have a few different things you might want to look at here. The first one I'm going to show you is, let's talk about scheduled reports. So I've got a SQL Server open here, and I just want to run a couple of queries. Okay, so I've just selected everything from the automated tasks table where SCHID, SCHED ID is 3. So SCHID 3 is for my reports. Okay, now I'm looking at some information here about when these run, the node of the report name, but I can look in more detail in the automated logs table. So what I've done here is I found the task ID for one of my jobs in the automated tasks table, and I'll just copy that. I've already done so, but you just copy that, and now I'm going to run a query to select everything from my automated logs table where the task ID equals the task ID that I've copied from my automated tasks. So if I run that, we'll see I have a little bit more information. Got a process log, list of reports, start to process report, processing the report, email true or false, process, complete, and it's done running that job. So you would check those logs if you're not getting reports delivered and see if it tells you anything about why that job is failing. If for some reason it did fail, it would write something in the log here that would indicate hopefully what exactly is going on with that. Okay, so that would be your first place to look. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can troubleshoot automatic imports. All right, in my AccuSQL 2017 folder here, you may or may not have a file called scheduledtasks.cfg. If for some reason your imports, are not running, you're having trouble with them, I'm just going to drag this config file into Notepad, and you can see I've got logging level 3. That is the most verbose logging that I can have for this. So that's going to write me out some files that I can analyze after the fact to see what's going on with my imports. So I have the highest logging level. So if you don't have one, you could create a scheduled task.cfg, make sure it has the right extension, not text, and make it logging level 3. That will enable the verbose logging. I want to just go to my database location here, and then I'm going to show path in Explorer. So your shared folder path is going to be the location that's going to store these files that we want to look at. Okay. Now with my verbose logging, you can see when the imports run, it's writing out some files for me. That DBF file, a log file, and an XML file. So we can analyze though. Let's look at the log file first. And this is going to show me what's going on. It's what it's trying to import, what the file it's trying to import, load pre-map, looking at mappings, etc., etc. And then at the end it says imports results are saved to a DBF and XML file. Next, let's look at that XML file. And that's going to show me the schema. It's going to show me all of the tags that it's using. So that could come in handy for you. And probably most importantly is I have a DBF file. Now DBF file, you're going to need a DBF viewer, and there's actually a nice freeware one out there called DBF Viewer Plus. So let's go steal this path real quick. And I'm just going to do an open. And let's find that 120 DBF file. So when I open that file, that actually shows me the student ID, first name, last name. In this case, it's a student import, but it could be a course import or a registration import. Anyway, it's showing me row by row of every import that happens. So that's a real good way to analyze exactly what's being imported or not being imported. If you have a problem with any of these scheduled tasks not running, the first thing I would recommend is disable the Windows service and run the AccuTrack That takes permissions out of the equation. Sometimes we'll see group policy, security policy. That's going to prevent that Windows service from running. So that would be your first order of business. If you want to run the Windows service, make sure it's using local admin credentials. Make sure you have all the permissions. When we create information, we're going to create temporary data. And we create those, like to make a PDF, for example. We create those in the Windows temp folder as defined in the environment variables. So here, let's see where my temp is. So it's a user profile, app data, local temp. So here is my local temp folder, but I need read, write, modify permissions. I need to make sure I have my temp folder defined in the environment variables. And in here, if I looked at some details, let's maybe view icons. You can see what it's doing. It puts a logo with my report, so I can see it's written a logo file out. It's written some other temp files out here. These are probably some of our temp files. This is a tutor. Anyway, these files are temporary, but it needs to have the ability to write to this folder in order to generate the reports we need. Whatever user that you're using to run the reports, or any of the scheduled tasks, I should say, should have read, write, modify permission to this folder and the files in it. What happens is whichever method you use to kick off Task Runner, it actually spawns these 3 other EXEs. So automated imports would kick off AccuTR import, appointment reminder, late media reminder, no-show reminders from the reminder EXE, and the reports are from AccuTR reports. If for some reason these don't have proper permissions, maybe they're set to read only, maybe they don't have the proper security credentials set up for the user that's running them. Anyway, you would want to check that. Really, those are the methods I'm showing you here. These are the same methods that we would use whenever we're troubleshooting the scheduled tasks on your PC.